Of all the many films in all the 9 realms of Asgard, there are none like the Marvel Cinematic Universe. A sweeping grand epic of 23 interconnected woven films, a tapestry unlike any other that talks about the responsibility of power and its very many meanings in life, or they're just dumb fun blockbusters that make Stan Lee the highest grossing actor ever, just by being in all of them. His movies that he has starred in as an actor have made more collectively, cumulatively, than any other actor in the world. And he's not even an actor. It's just a fun fact. I'm going to finally rank all 23 Marvel films from the Infinity Saga, the first 3 phases of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Why wait until Black Widow's out only to not include it in the video?
What will you sacrifice for what you believe?
Unfortunately, something has to be 23rd and at the bottom, and I hate to do it because I don't hate or dislike even any of the MCU films. Honestly, they're all just of such a similar style that you're either going to like all of them pretty much or dislike all of them pretty much, but that's just depressing. So, basically this one, Thor he's back on Earth and he's up with Jane and it's all hooga booga booga, and then there's also, she gets the inside of her, and then Malekith is there. Christopher Eccleston could have been a great villain. Not. That's going to be a recurring theme to the day. And yeah, no, it's okay. It's fine. There's funny moments, there's enjoyable moments, there's other stuff as well in there. It's not an awful film. It's a completely watchable film. It's just that in comparison to any other Marvel film, you wouldn't really want to watch it, because it is garbage. But it's still nice enough to look back on. There's funny moments. Chris O'Dowd was really funny in it, trying to date Jay and things like that. I'm still giving Bor, God of Thunder, 68 out of 100 though. The MCU film that's not really, as far as any of them don't belong here on this list, The Incredible Hulk. Not really made by Marvel Studios, but it's fine, it's fine. It can count, it can count. Edward Norton was a perfectly viable choice as Bruce Banner. Liv Tyler was also in this. William Hurt is, of course, the only character that's really lasted, and was well cast as General Ross, I gotta say, even if he has been underutilized despite having so many appearances in the series. The story of this one, the Abomination, that was, and the whole, leader as well, it was trying to set up things for the future, and then it kind of had Tony Stark in it at the end, you're like, so that was all nice, but overall this is another one that's not, it's not a strong film, but it does have nice memories, probably more so than Thor: The Dark World, if only because Edward Norton. And the memory of that, which kind of makes you go, would have been interesting to see him interacting with the other Avengers. Not that I'm unhappy about it being Mark Ruffalo, he's great too. But you won't like him, you'll be angry, is getting 70 out of 100, yeah. Ooh, God. Tony Stark's ultimate self-destruction. Iron Pietro. Yeah. Sam Rockwell. There's a lot about Iron Man 2 that's just like, whoo, It's very unfortunate that Natasha Romanoff, such a legendary, amazing character, was introduced in this film. Yeah. But, it's fine. It's fine. You've got Ivan Vanko, Whiplash, Tony Stark being very boozy and awful the whole film, annoying the fuck out of you. Just you've got some good stuff. Look, it's totally fine. It's totally watchable. It's just comparing it to the other MCU films now, looking back at this Phase 1 and Phase 2 stuff, some of it. It's just aged a bit poorly in some different ways. Don Cheadle, though, also introduced in this one, so realistically, in some ways, it should be more memorable than Iron Man 1, but it's not. And I'm giving Soup's Burnout 2 72 out of 100.
His fate is in his own hands now.
end this.
Oh, gotta love that first Thor film. Get that Chris Hemsworth. He's taking off his shirt. He meets Natalie Portman. She doesn't take off her shirt, but that's okay. She's beautiful either way. Kat Dennings is there. She's also incredibly beautiful. Stellan Skarsgård's there. He's also incredibly beautiful. What an incredibly beautiful cast. And Tom Hiddleston to boot. God, what is a man to do? Jesus Christ. Also, it's worth noting, he's thousands of years old. Thor's the first Avenger. It doesn't matter. It's not important. Couldn't matter less. He fights his brother on a rainbow bridge. His brother tries to start a war with some frost trolls who are actually his people. So really, is he betraying Asgard by joining them, or... Good question. And the whole film is fine. It's totally fine. It's perfectly watchable. The scene where he gets back his powers and stuff, that's great. The final scene against Loki, pretty solid. Loki's death. Feels a bit silly to refer to it as that nowadays, but yeah, no, I mean, overall, it's fine. It's not the Thor film we maybe deserved. So I'm giving a film that is not worthy 74 out of 100.
We're gonna die. I don't want to die. We didn't die.
Hey, what'd I miss?
We were just tiny.
It takes two to make a thing go right.
I mean, really? It's weird. Because I'll be the first to admit that Ant-Man and the Wasp is the most forgettable MCU film of all. And it's not necessarily its fault. If it had come at a different time in a different year, it came in 2018. It came after Black Panther and Infinity War. Nobody cared. That was the problem. And there wasn't an awful lot to this one. It was just another Ant-Man film, and this time Wasp was a proper leading character. She was in the title. That's great. And they worked together well. There is still a lot of comedy to this one. It's not maybe as funny overall as the first one, but Michael Douglas as Hank Pym is doing a good job. Janet Van Dyne being introduced, and Ghost is a very interesting character in there as well. So, overall, absolutely acceptable. I enjoyed watching it at the cinema. I do not feel the need to go back and watch it again particularly, but that is okay because it was still fun, and overall it did less wrong, I felt, than some of these films below it. But I'm giving ultra forgettable fun 75 out of 100. Iron Man 3 is a goddamn divisive film, it has to be said. Overall, I think the debate, which is what it was, of Trevor, was fine, and it was fun, but it really kind of left the third act a bit on a loose edge. It didn't really feel like it ramped up then to the big final fight or something big that it probably should have done, since this was the last ever Iron Man film. I mean, for now. But overall, this one, it does do well. It's got some amazing scenes, like the house being destroyed. That's really cool. Tony Stark isn't as self-destructively annoying in this film. That is also definitely true. I feel like it was good. I feel like it definitely did better than Iron Man 2. People who say Iron Man 3 is worse than that are kidding themselves. It isn't fantastic. It's not a huge scorer for the MCU still for me, but it's a solid piece of work. It's got all of the RDJ charm fully set in this character now, knows exactly what he's doing. So that is nice, but I am giving just some bullshit with that twist. 78 out of 100.
I'm Ant-Man. I know. It wasn't my idea.
Ant-Man was an intriguing idea. Not a popular character overall. Wasn't something that they were going to do massive, giant CGI fights for. They did get Paul Rudd to play him, which was always going to end well. And it did go. It was one of the first big ones Marvel went for that was completely out there different. It was a comedic heist film more than an outright superhero film in many ways. And Paul Rudd as Scott Lang, brilliant. Michael Douglas as an older Hank Pym guiding him, great. Evangeline Lilly, fantastic. And even Darren Cross's Yellow Jacket, underused villain, just the opposite of, it's the evil version of exactly what Ant-Man is, but it was fine. It was all fine. It was very funny. One of the funnier MCU films overall, I'd say, quite honestly. And it's got Michael Pena and his random little side bits, which are also fantastic. It is not huge. There's never going to be, ironically, anything huge about the Ant-Man franchise. So I do think there is a limit to where we're even going to get to with the third of these films, where they are seemingly doing a lot more stuff and adding in bigger things. But overall, I'm giving Paul Rudd is the real Eternal 80 out of 100.
There are no strings on me.
People have tried to dissect what went wrong for years with Age of Ultron. Joss Whedon was he was crazed out. There was way too much he was being forced to stick into this film, and therefore it was just more of a stepping stone than anything else. It was setting up for Civil War, it was setting up for Infinity War, it was setting up everything all at once. And it was very difficult also introducing a bunch of new characters and dealing with extra stories being added on for all of the existing ones. The thing is, though, it's never going to be in like a bottom 5 MCU films for me. If only because it's so effortlessly good and fun and enjoyable to watch when you've got the Avengers on screen together. Just the little party bits they have at the start. It's just really fun. And it does a lot to expand upon and fix some of the problems from the first one, especially Hawkeye. Give him a real go this time. Overall, though, it was just a stepping stone. We'd already been told what Captain America 3 was going to be, so nobody was as hyped for this as they probably should have been, you know? So I'm giving iRobot 81 out of 100.
Don't mess with me, because I will kill you and everybody you love.
Look, I think Spider-Man Homecoming is great. I think it was such a triumphant moment that it's a literal return for him to home. They were able to put Spider-Man in a film with the Avengers, and then they were able to do a solo film for him. Tom Holland was a proper teenager playing him. There was so much to be excited about. I really like it. I don't think I rate it as highly as other people do, and I don't quite know why that is. Michael Keaton is a good enough villain as Vulture, and the story is good enough. Happy is good enough. RDJ coming in and doing bits with him, good enough. Everything felt good enough without there being something exceptional, an exceptional spark, if you will, which most of the MCU films above this, I'd say, from here on out, have something of. This one, it did feel friendly neighborhood. It didn't feel big or giant, you know, there was something of that missing for me overall. And don't get me wrong, I think Tom Holland is the best Spider-Man overall, so this was kind of effortlessly good, but I think it could have been better. So I'm giving the best Spider-Man 81 out of 100.
That's a really bad sign.
I love the Guardians of the Galaxy, I love the team dynamics, I love the characters. There's so much to love about them just being together. And that's why, again, just like Age of Ultron, it feels effortless to just put them together and have it be fun and enjoyable and great and rewatchable. I feel like at this stage we're getting to the point where they're all very rewatchable. Additionally, this one, Kurt Russell as his dad doing the Ego Planet thing, he is a good villain. I thought he was a good villain. I thought they could have done more with him and he could have been a great film, but he was a good villain. I enjoyed this film. Nebula slowly turning around, Yondu's story as well. There's so much that is so fantastic about this one. It's got a hugely emotional ending. It has once again got a fucking banging soundtrack, and it is just a joy to behold. But it could have been better. Again, there's just a couple of them around this point in the list which I thought were definitely very good entries in the MCU. But could have been better for sure. There's something still slightly missing from this that didn't quite level it up to that next bit. Overall, I'm still giving Quill's ego as planet-sized. 82 out of 100.
I'm not what you think I am.
It was a very interesting time to bring in Captain Marvel, yeah. Without having her really interact with the Avengers much until Endgame, and we kind of skipped 5 years, and it kind of made for a confusing thing, allowed to show off how good she was against Thanos, but for her solo film itself, I mean, Set in the 90s, okay, sure, cool. Young Samuel L. Jackson, really nice buddy cop thing they had going on there. Introducing Monica Rambeau. Oh, okay. Setting up for some sequel stuff. A lot of alien stuff going on there. Wasn't important, really. Very forgettable, all of that stuff. And then she was already, in her first film, so OP that she couldn't even have a proper final boss fight. That kind of left a bad, taste in my mouth, kind of going oh. That immediately makes me feel like she's too OP. Even Superman has boss fights at the end of his films, but okay. It was a weird feeling, but overall it was a very enjoyable film. It was very well done. I like Brie Larson. I do. I like Brie Larson in the role. And I'm giving endless 90s references 83 out of 100.
I don't know if I can do this.
This is why you were chosen.
Gosh, all the way back in Phase 1, Captain America the First Avenger. He's not. I've made this point already, but he's not the first Avenger. They just did Thor, same year, established how many thousands of years old Thor is, and then they were like, yeah, Captain America fighting in World War II. That makes him the first. The fuck, it doesn't matter. You've got Captain America, Coming Together origin, big shirtless Steve Rogers. You've got Haley Atwell. What a delightful woman. Oh my god, I love Haley Atwell. You've got Tommy Lee Jones as the general. He's fantastic. He's quippy. He's great. And you've got Dominic Cooper as Howard Stark. You've got Hugo Weaving as Red Skull. You've introduced Hydra. You've done it so well. Everything about this worked really well. Sebastian Stan as Bucky and his death. It's a very well done film, and it feels unique because we're not going to get another Marvel film, I presume, set in a time period as different as this. It's very interesting to see. I mean, the Eternals, I don't know what the hell's going to be up with that. But overall, this is great, but I'm giving Thor was way first 84 out of 100. I mean, Doctor Strange, just missing out on the top 10 on this list. It's a very good film, you gotta say. And it has been kind of left to the side. Doctor Strange's exploits in a bunch of the other films are more well remembered, especially Infinity War, than his own film. And I don't really know why that is, because there's a lot of things to love about his film. A lot of reasons that it has gotten higher than a lot of the other films on this list. A lot of reasons. The style of it, the trippy style, it is fantastic. It feels closer to a kind of more horror-y style than we've gotten with anything else in the MCU so far, and Dormammu and that whole final sequence is fantastic. You gotta love that. You question how Strange became Sorcerer Supreme so ultra excellent after being an amateur in this film so quickly. It's because he's got the Time Stone, guys. He spent thousands of years training already by the time Infinity War rolls around. God damn. And it is really well done, and I was excited to see where this was kind of going. And the fact that it is going to be a proper, 6-year gap between films is kind of lessening the excitement for that. It's like James Cameron thinking that everyone cares about the Avatar sequels after waiting a decade. But I do think it's going to work out really well. There is some interesting build being done early in Phase 4 for this sequel, so I'm very excited for it. And I think this is a fantastic film that it's really cool mythos, a really different mythos to a lot of the other heroes. So it'll be very interesting to see where we go from here. And I'm giving Dormammu, I've come to bargain, 85 out of 100.
The world needs the next Iron Man.
You going to step up or not?
This has what I was talking about with Spider-Man Homecoming. Spider-Man Far From Home, taking Peter, putting him in Europe. He's got these elementals, he's meeting Jake Gyllenhaal, who's fucking sick, and a great villain. I don't care what anybody says, fantastic villain. And you've just got so much to this one. You've got his relationship with MJ, which is so wholesome and sweet, and if they're actually dating in real life, it's going to be even more wholesome and sweet in the third one. You've got Ned and Betsy, which is just hilarious. You've got their teachers on the trip. There's so much comedy to this one. There is so much that does, yeah, you can call him Iron Man Jr. So fucking what? It feels almost as good as the best Iron Man film at this stage. Mysterio and the final fight feels epic. This whole thing feels like it comes together so well that I don't know what people are complaining about with this one. It baffles me, because I think this is a fantastic entry, and it really shows that if they want, they could make like 9 Spider-Man films with Tom Holland. He's of an age where they could do that if they wanted. And it could get really fucking good. Oh yeah. So I'm giving Spider-Man vs. Scarecrow 86 out of 100.
I'm just not the hero type, clearly.
At 9th, we have the beginning. The beginning. Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man is impeccable casting. Him being this asshole who grew, had to go and create his own suit that was just to survive at first, and then just showing us his evolution through to a point where, well, I mean, still not that evolved. When you take into the grand scheme of things, like how, you know, the nanotech he gets to, still not that evolved by the end of this one, but the things that he goes through this film, it's the simple origin story. It's just simple, but he's such an asshole, and he plays it so well and so charismatically and so pitch perfect, and he's set. His charismatic style here, it's set the MCU tone officially, and that's what it was, and that's what it still is, and that's what it always will be, because Robert Downey Jr. just played this cocky git so perfectly. Obviously, Ironmonger's not a great film. There are a lot of things about this that should bring it down on the list, but it's just so iconic and so pitch perfect in every way, and it was just such a moment that changed the superhero genre forever. It really did, right from the off. It is a brilliant entry, even looking back today. And I'm giving He Is Iron Man 87 out of 100.
What were you the god of again?
Taika Waititi is a genius. That's the only way that a Thor film, rounding out this trilogy, if you will, though they're making a 4th one already, so it's the one that's not really going to end in the trilogy. It's the only way that after 2 very mediocre films right near the bottom of the list, Thor Ragnarok ended up here. Sure, it's not a real solo film when you've got Hulk in there and it's a buddy cop kind of thing, and you've also got Valkyrie and Loki and big ensemble cast, and Korg, my god, genius. The Grandmaster, fantastic. Hela, solid enough villain, but she was just kind of chilling on Asgard for a great portion of the film. So it wasn't important that they didn't develop her that much. They did all they needed with that character. And then the finale on Asgard and taking it out. It's all so well done, and it is the #1 funniest MCU film. I don't think there's any... I'm trying to look at the list. I don't think there's any doubt about that, guys. It is the funniest MCU film. Taika Waititi is a genius. I cannot wait for Thor 4. That is going to be phenomenal, okay? But I am giving Ragnarok 88 out of 100.
The revolution will be live.
It is devastating to think about this one and just how high this is up my list in the wake of what happened, unfortunately, to Chadwick Boseman. And it is such a goddamn good film. Just freshly crowned King of Wakanda, dealing with one of, I don't care what you say, one of the very best MCU villains. Killmonger fucks, guys. Michael B. Jordan did a fantastic job. And it was such a simple premise for a villain. That was all it was. And he is just, realistically, another one of those, oh, he's the same, but evil as Black Panther. But it works so well. The women in this film as well, the 3 primary women. Don't know what the hell happened to Lupita Nyong'o's character in, like, Infinity War and stuff, but that's fine. They're amazing. The characters are awesome. Martin Freeman's character, even. Still, I liked him more than I did in any of the other films he's been in. It just worked so well. This was such a simple film, but everything to do with Wakanda in the MCU has turned up golden, guys. It is a gold mine in more ways than one, and I really am looking forward to seeing what they do from here with the Black Panther franchise, because everything that they do touch with it turns to gold, and I really hope that they are able to continue it and honor Chadwick with it, because that'd just be incredible. And I'm giving We'll Always Have Wakanda 89 out of 100.
If we can't protect the Earth, you can be damn sure we'll avenge it.
When I set out to make this list, I did not expect to find myself placing the Avengers outside of the top 5. but it ages. It ages worse than any other MCU film. 9 years since it's been released, and yet you look at the gulf in terms of visuals that there is between it and Infinity War and Endgame, which are only 6-7 years later. It is massive, I have to say. And this has, like I said with Age of Ultron, it's got so much nostalgia to it. It's got that first time that they all came together on screen, which was always going to be fucking mind-blowing no matter what. And it remains that today. Just seeing those first interactions, it's still so incredible to look back on. This universe wouldn't exist if this film hadn't been so fucking good. And it was. And it was just fan service. It didn't do anything overly complicated. It just took Loki, who was the initial comic book villain that brought the Avengers together, and they had a little Infinity Stone, and it was so simple, but it was so perfectly executed. It is wonderful, but it does age, so it misses out in the top 5. Still, I'm giving Earth's Mightiest Heroes, that kind of thing, 90 out of 100.
Stay down. Final warning.
I could do this all day.
Sneaking into that top 5, it's Civil War. Why? Because it was the Avengers 2 that we deserved and wanted. And yes, I get that people call it civil dispute. It wasn't as big a war as they had in the comics. It wouldn't have made much sense for it to be much bigger at that point in the universe, and obviously with Infinity War and Endgame kind of coming up and getting rid of Captain America and Iron Man, we were never going to get the proper Civil War over, the same sides without doing it right now. So I was totally okay with it. It brought in Spider-Man. It was a phenomenal solo film for Captain America while also having all these other characters in it, which is astounding. And it completed the journey of Bucky. It really rounded out his trilogy very well, while also not finishing his story, because that had to come later, and doing so much beyond that, and just making this the least solo but totally still a solo film, you know what I mean, that you could possibly make. That was really astounding. This is the one that made me go, oh hell yeah, Russo brothers, no, get them to do everything. And they did, and they nailed it all. So I am giving Avengers Disassembled 91 out of 100. There are reasons why just Winter Soldier edges out Civil War for me. It is a difficult call. They're both so freaking good. I think Captain America's trilogy is undefeatable in terms of character trilogy arcs. In individual film terms, whether you count Civil War as an individual film or not. This one, it just had so much going for it. It had Winter Soldier coming in and the Bucky and the emotion. It had turning Captain America film into a spy film, which modern day just made so much sense. It is the closest thing you'll get to an Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. film, for sure. And it just did so much with Nick Fury and Maria Hill. And it did give Natasha the most significant screen time and arc and humor and lines that you would get basically until her own solo film, and it is just so good. It's so good. The finale is one of the biggest, most beautifully thought out set pieces there is in the MCU. I think it still baffles me that none of the other Avengers turned out. It doesn't matter, don't question that, never question that, don't do that. That's a path that leads to only pain. Overall, I'm just giving Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. the movie 92 out of 100.
Call themselves the Guardians of the Galaxy.
What a bunch of a-holes.
Filming this is a super trippy experience because I've just filmed 21-minute reviews in a row, and yet I'm so hyped to talk about these last 3. It is almost a predictable last 3 if you know me well, because I am a massive Guardians of the Galaxy fan, guys. I just love team-up movies. My top 5, 6 here is all team-up movies to some degree. This was such a shocker. It came out with such an astounding soundtrack. The best soundtrack to a film ever. That's not a musical, James Gunn, his unique style, it worked so perfectly here. It just nailed every aspect of it. No, Rona's not a great villain. Yes, it introduced Thanos sitting in a chair a lot. But bringing the team together, the uniqueness of all of these characters and just driving them together and then making them work together, it was so, so funny. Chris Pratt as a leading action man suddenly went and became a massive thing for Hollywood going forwards. And the whole film it's just such a glorious space opera. I love that term so much. It's so fitting. Nothing in terms of that explanation has ever been more accurate than Guardians of the Galaxy. This film is a triumph, and I fucking love every second of it. It's got so much rewatchability to it as well. So much more than so many of these films beneath it, I think. I could sit and watch this film all day over and over again, because it's just so much of everything Marvel, while also being so separate from everything Marvel. Unbelievable. I am giving just a bunch of a-holes 93 out of 100.
Dread it. Run from it. Destiny still arrives.
When Infinity War came out, yes, Infinity War is number 2 on the list, I heard it described by somebody else, I can't take credit for this, as maybe not the best movie Marvel's ever made, but definitely the most movie Marvel's ever made. And for me, being so involved in the canon, writing about what rumors I thought were, oh god, what's going to happen next, every second of it, seeing this culmination, seeing all of these characters on screen all at once, it blew my freaking mind. And it was, at the time of its release, my favourite Marvel movie yet. And it remains so today. Well, no, it remains my favourite Marvel movie to that point today. It doesn't age or lessen over the last 3 years. It is so fantastic. It is a Thanos movie. It's Thanos' movie. He's the main character, as much as anyone is here. And it's so fantastic, and you see his point of view, and you understand his motivation, and he easily makes himself the best Marvel villain. It is so effortless, the whole thing. It's just a giant clusterfuck. It's so many characters, and yet it doesn't, for me at least, feel bloated, which is why it is just the supreme ultra in terms of these films, okay? So I'm giving who could even fit the X-Men in here 95 out of 100. But Endgame's the best. Endgame, bringing together mostly the original Avengers back together after all this time. Few additions, for sure. And going on this adventure, trying to see if everything and everyone that they love, everything they've gained ever since they fought in the Battle of New York, going back to the Battle of New York, everything about this is perfect. It ties the entire universe up to this point in a neat ribbon and just pushes it off to go over a waterfall and just die beautifully, and God knows what comes next. But this was perfect. Steve's ending was perfect. Iron Man's was perfect. It was. And everything about it that they did, the final battle is the greatest thing I've ever seen. I could literally just watch the last hour of this film, especially, just over and over, endlessly. Unbelievable film. It's just, I don't know how to explain it. Watching it in the cinema for the first time, I think it must be like what our parents experienced watching Star Wars, the first Star Wars, or Empire Strikes Back in the cinema for the first time, because it just, there is nothing else that I can think of that approximates to this. Endgame is unbelievable, and it will, I have to imagine, remain the best Marvel movie ever. I can't believe there is a way that they can top this. I don't, and that's sad in one way. But in another way, it's nice, because I'm enjoying what they're doing onwards from this, and yet I'm at peace with the fact that I got to watch all of these in the cinema and just accept that's the grit. This is as good as it gets, guys. So I'm giving Fast and Furious's Wet Dream 96 out of 100. They're actually want to go for like 10 and 11 for Fast and Furious. Try and like put them back to back and do some giant culmination. No one can top this. Star Wars already tried and fucked it. Guys, that's all. I will do Black Widow separately tomorrow, because it would be weird to include it in this without any of the other Phase 4 films, I think. The Infinity Saga ties up so neatly. It'd be a shame to add on to this video. But Thank you guys so much for watching. Please do subscribe if you like these kind of ranking videos and reviews and all sorts. Some of these weren't really so much reviews in the end because everybody knows what these are. They were just descriptions of what I love about them, which is fair enough. You know what? Everyone does know what these are. If you don't at this point, you're not watching this video, right? You're not watching a ranking of every Marvel movie unless you've seen at least most of them yourself, right? Please go ahead and subscribe. That would be nice.